Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us today. Very excited to be talking about our integration and partnership with Microsoft Fabric, which is, as of this week, in private preview. So it is accessible. We'll talk a little bit more later in the presentation about how folks can enroll in that private preview. But let's go ahead and take a look at the agenda. So, my name is Whit Moses. I am on the product marketing team here at Tonic, and today we're joined by our co-founder Adam, who also heads up engineering. And then on the Microsoft side, we have Rich and Jane and Roy Hassan, both of whom work on the product side of Microsoft Fabric. As part of the talk track today, we will be giving an overview of Tonic Textual. The Microsoft team will also be digging into Microsoft Fabric, the value that comes with it. We'll also speak to the synergy that comes with being able to leverage Tonic Textual on Microsoft Fabric. And then we'll give a quick overview of what the preview process looks like, who is eligible, and how to sign up, followed by a quick Q&A. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We may hold them until we get to that FAQ moment towards the end, but we are keeping our eye on the chat, so we will get to them eventually. So with that said, I'm going to pass it to Adam to give us an overview of Tonic Textual.
Hey everyone, Whit, thank you for that introduction. And for those that just joined or maybe didn't get all of that, my name's Adam. I'm one of Tonic's co-founders, and I'm also our head of engineering. And for the past year and a half, I've been driving development of a product called Tonic Textual. Tonic Textual is Tonic's answer to our customers dealing with sensitive, unstructured data. Tonic Textual is essentially a set of sophisticated NER and synthesis models that take unstructured data. It could be raw text, it could be PDFs or images or audio files or chat transcripts. Tonic Textual then identify the PII and sensitive information within these documents and generate synthetic versions of the documents which look and feel real, but they're devoid of customer PII. The use cases for this are manifold, but the primary use case that we see is for customers that A, want to just understand where their PII is found within their unstructured data, or B, they're trying to do something useful with data that is too sensitive to work with otherwise. So imagine a customer that wants to go train a new machine learning model on sensitive unstructured data. You can't risk putting your customer's PII and PHI and sensitive information into the weights of the model that you're training. So you can run your data through Tonic Textual, generate a set of synthetic unstructured data, which you can then train your model on. The model is now free of your customer sensitive information, and you still have a valuable machine learning model that you can inference and use. Our customers, kind of run across industries from finance to healthcare, and even to B2C customers like eBay. And our customers use us to deal with sensitive unstructured data in ways that otherwise they couldn't. There's many ways that you can use our product. Of course, you can go sign up and start using it today at textual.tonic.ai. Maybe we could put a link to that in the chat. And if you do so, you'll see a UI like this. You can essentially provide text files, PDFs, images, or just copy and paste raw text, and our models will identify the sensitive information. We can either tokenize it like you're seeing here, or we can synthesize it, creating realistic replacement values so that your unstructured data still looks and feels real. And of course, today we're announcing another way that you can use Tonic Textual from directly within Microsoft Fabric.
Thanks, Adam. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Richin, part of the Fabric ISV team. So I'm sure at this point, you've probably already heard about Fabric or are already using it. It is one of the Microsoft's fastest growing database product in our history. So we have close to 25,000 enterprise customers using this in their production applications today, out of which 70% of Fortune 500 customers. So the momentum is incredible and real. So let's dive in. So at Microsoft, our mission is to empower everyone to create their own co-pilots, right? And Fabric becomes the data layer. It is the data layer for the Copilot stack. Within Fabric, we have your SQL databases, your SQL Server, Postgres. We have NoSQL databases as well. We have graph databases, and we have vector databases. And for analytics workloads, we have Warehouse and also Spark Engine. So you can pretty much do everything around your data within Fabric. And then OneLake, which is the foundation of Fabric, allows you to unify your data estate across on-prem and different clouds. And so we have also integrated Fabric with broader Copilot stack. So other applications like AI Foundry, AI Search, and others, you can kind of use Fabric with them, including your M365. So let's dive into different capabilities and engines of Fabric. So what is Microsoft Fabric? I actually like to give this analogy of Office. We have all have used Office or are using Office. Office is a collection of productivity applications, right? Like Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. And each of these tool is optimized for a specific use case. Word for creating a document, Excel for analyzing spreadsheet, and so on. And what you also see across these tools is not these specific tools, but what make them powerful is the unified experience that you see across these tools, and also like the common unified storage and security and governance that is the underpinning for the all Office applications. So collectively, you get a unified experience out of it. And Fabric is similar, but for data. It's a unified platform for all your data applications. And so we have different engines which within Fabric, using Data Factory, you can bring your data into Fabric through analytics and databases. You can analyze it, and using Power BI, you can visualize it. What we also enable now is, and this has been in preview for quite some time, is that we have also opened up the platform for our incredible partners like Tonic to build on top of it and provide the unique capabilities that basically enrich the platform itself. And at the underpinning of all of these different engines is OneLake. I'm gonna talk in more detail about it. But OneLake basically unifies your data from different sources. And one of the key benefits of Fabric, because it's only 22 months old. We launched Fabric in November of 2021 in GA. So it was born in the AI era. So AI is sort of infused through everything that you do in Fabric. If you go to any of these experiences, you will have Copilot next to it, and you can converse with it. So AI is deeply infused throughout the platform. It's not an afterthought. And just because data is in a single place, it's very easy to govern it. We have a very deep integration with Purview. So all in all, like all the other thing is, like, all of these different services, they're all battle tested Azure services. You have probably used them in Azure Data Factories, Azure Data Factory, the warehouses, Synapse Data Warehouse. We have brought all of them under a unified umbrella and offering them as a SaaS application. So you have no VMs to spin up. Everything is part of a single compute model, and everything draws from the same compute pool. So there is a huge cost saving as well. Okay, so let's dive into each of those engines that we saw in the previous slide. So Data Factory, it allows you to move your data from various places into Fabric. We have 200 plus connectors that you can leverage to bring your data in. That spans to your on-prem sources, other clouds, your CRM systems, and so on. And then once the data is in, you can use, we cater to both low code and pro code developers. So you can drag and drop and do some transformations on top of that data, or you can use pipelines to do more sophisticated transformations, along with orchestrating these pipelines and scheduling them. And for analytics, we have Apache Spark Engine. This is the next version of Azure HD Insight that is scalable Spark service that we offered. For warehouse, we have Synapse Data Warehouse. It's all decoupled, so you can scale it seamlessly. And lastly, for our notebook users, we also provide notebooks, scalable notebooks that you can both collaborate with others and schedule these notebooks as part of your analytics workflows. Next slide, please. Okay. So in addition to offering all these databases and analytics services, we also offer real-time services so that you can ingest your data through various sources from IoT sensors and everything else. It also provides out-of-the-box connectors for other cloud sources like Amazon Kinesis, Google PubSub, and so on, and Kafka. And once the data is in through all this ingestion, you can transform them, ingest it, store it in Event House. Event House is our storage for these real-time ingestion events. We provide a specialized query language on top of it called KQL, using which you can query. And then there are a bunch of other services like Activator, which allows you to activate a workflow based on these events flowing in. And through real-time hub, you can kind of see everything that is flowing into the system seamlessly. So I talked about like how we're enabling our partners also to build on top of Fabric and bring their own unique capabilities. So we are very happy to announce that we are working with Tonic and a couple of other partners. These are these are not the only ones. There's many more, but these are the very recent ones that we announced that basically allows our customers to harness the power of the platform even more. Okay, so let's actually dive a little bit deeper into the OneLake, which is the underpinning of the Fabric platform. And so that, as I mentioned, that OneLake allows you to unify your data estate. So we understand that our customers are leveraging data into, they already have their data commitments in different places. So we want to make it easy and seamless for them to bring their data into the platform through various ways. So we provide capabilities to bring data in from Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, your on-prem sources. And we recently, like I've been working very closely with both Databricks and Snowflake for our customers to give them choices to bring the data into Fabric through OneLake. So if you just click on next. Wait. Yeah, so I already mentioned we have deep partnership with Snowflake and Databricks. And once the data lands into Fabric OneLake, it automatically lights up for the broader Microsoft services, right? So, for example, AI Foundry or AI Studio can read data directly from OneLake. You don't have to build that connector yourself. It just works seamlessly, so you can train your large language models on top of this. You also use Copilot Studio and create copilots using your data sitting in OneLake. What is unique about all this is all of the different engines that are interacting with Fabric, they're all working off single copy of the data. So there's no data duplication, there's no data copy, there's only single source of truth. And OneLake also integrates with the M365 suite. So you see all the Office application, your Teams and others. So you can leverage that integration as well in your business flow. So let's talk about different ways of how you get your data in. Shortcuts, it's similar to how on Windows or Mac you will create virtual links for files in different places and kind of access it the same way. Using shortcuts, if you have data sitting in Amazon S3 or Google Cloud Storage, and there are many sources, there are a lot of native Azure sources that we support as well, including Databricks and Snowflake, you can bring all of that in without actually moving the data. So for a Fabric user, it just feels like through shortcut that the data is sitting in within Fabric, but Fabric fetches it for you at runtime when you are firing queries against those shortcuts. We have cached inbuilt in the shortcuts, so there's not a performance hit. We kind of managed it all for you. What we also launched recently is is the shortcut transform. So we allow you to do some file transformation as part of creating those shortcuts. So imagine you have your CSV files sitting in Amazon S3 bucket. And if you create a shortcut transformation, you can convert those CSV file to Delta Lake. So it's not a one-time transformation. We keep it up refreshed. So if you're dropping more CSV files in your Amazon S3 bucket, they will show up as Delta tables on the One Lake side. So this is like a we keep it fresh. And so the other approach of getting your data in is we understand that sometimes customer have these operational databases that is running the critical applications, and they don't want to migrate or do lift and shift, but they still want to use Fabric for the analytics needs. So we provide a way to get the data in Fabric through mirroring. And what mirroring allows our customers to do is basically have a replica of their database running outside of Fabric, so that they can run their analytics load on it. So as part of the integration, our partners or the partner that is building the integration, they will process CDC events, and then they will put it in a landing zone that is basically a One Lake location, and our service or the mirroring service picks it up and converts it into a Delta and Iceberg format. The cool thing about mirroring is it's free. So we are not charging customers for these transformations, for these like CDC processing, and we are not charging for the storage either. So because we all understand they're paying for storage outside anyways, and that storage kind of grows based on the Fabric CU customers are using. And so when we first started Fabric, one of the key driving principles was to keep it open so that there's no vendor lock-in. At that point, we took a strong dependency on Delta Lake. So all of our engines, we optimized those engines to work with Delta Lake format. And we are seeing great momentum around Apache Iceberg. So we now support both Apache Iceberg and Delta Lake seamlessly. So if our customers are writing tables in Iceberg format, they automatically get converted to Delta Lake and vice versa. So it's all seamless and all transparent for the users. Through One Lake catalog, this is sort of a business catalog that our customers can use through which they can see how the One Lake, how the data setting in One Lake is organized and kind of spanning across different workspaces. They can filter through different tags, through different domains. You can see how you can apply labels on it, sensitivity labels on it. The sensitivity labels in One Lake catalog is similar to how it is in M365 and also in Purview. So the same label kind of flows through the whole system. So you don't have to define something new here. And you can access One Lake catalog through different M365 applications as well. And you can apply One Lake security and also Purview governance policies through this catalog. And real quick, like I think security is paramount. So we want to make sure that we provide different ways of securing the data. Each of our engines, have security inbuilt in them to provide role-based access control and so on. But since One Lake is kind of the underpinning for everything, One Lake security allows security personas or security personals to define roles and access for different users. You can define row level access, you can define column level access, and so on. And then all of this and you can assign access at table level as well. And all of this is available for you through the One Lake catalog. You can see there's a secure tab that is running in the video over there, through which you can see like what are the different roles and permissions folks have access to. And I already talked about Iceberg support that we have started enabling our customers for. So what we also support is we provide a set of APIs on top of Iceberg on top of one lake, which is iceberg compliant. So they're iceberg REST catalog compliant. You can view your tables, list all the tables as part of these APIs. So what this means is that all different iceberg vendors can actually integrate with one lake through these APIs. And again, these APIs are exposed through iceberg through our one lake catalog. And you can also enforce one lake security through them as well. So I talked about the platform itself, but we know that there are so many more capabilities that our partner can come in and fill in and kind of extend the power of Fabric. And that's why I'm really excited to see this integration come to life. And I'm happy to announce that Tonic is actually in private preview. So Adam is going to talk about what that entails. So Adam, please take it from you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I'm going to give a very quick overview of how someone using the textual integration into Fabric would kind of experience the product. And I'm going to do it by walking through some slides. Before I do that, though, let me give you a very high-level overview of what this integration actually does. And it's like the way I like to think about it is, think of Fabric as the layer that allows you to connect to your data in all of its different sources. Fabric comes out of the box with, I think it's like something like 200 data connectors, which is, only a company like Microsoft can pull that off. But, Tonic is a smaller company. We couldn't possibly add, 200 connectors for anything. That's a huge, impressive engineering effort. So we get to take advantage of Microsoft Fabric's data connectors for free. And essentially, when we connect to data, it's always through Fabric. It's not through our own native connectors. So what we do is we essentially process files in your lakehouse. How the files get into the lakehouse is between you and Microsoft Fabric. Fabric has many great ways of doing this, but Textual is able to operate on files sitting in your lakehouse. Essentially what happens is you point Tonic Textual at your lakehouse, specifically at the folders or files in the lakehouse that you're interested in creating de-identified or synthetic versions of. You're also going to specify an output location. You'll specify a lakehouse somewhere else where you want to place your now safe, sanitized, synthetic files. At that point, Tonic Textual will scan these files for PII and PHI. It'll then create sanitized versions of the files and place them into this output lakehouse location. And then from there, you can point your machine learning training runs at this folder. You can point your RAG applications at it. Whatever use case you have to kind of integrate your files with all of the various AI services offered by Microsoft Fabric, by Azure, etc. And you can now do this in a safe way. So let's go through a quick demo of that. And we can go to the next slide, Whit. Excellent. So, this has already been mentioned. Fabric comes with many different workloads out of the box, and I'm sure more are being added all the time. In order to see the textual workload, you'll need to talk to your system administrator to get access because we're still in private preview, and we'll give instructions on how to do that. But once it's available on your workloads page, you can go and learn more about it. And let's go to the next slide, Whit. So here you get a brief description of what we do and essentially how the workload works. And eventually now we're going to want to go add our workload to some existing flow that you're setting up in Fabric. So you go add a new work item. We're going to call that Tonic Textual, or textual item rather, and we're going to create that now. As the next step, once that's created, we have to start adding files, right? Textual can't do anything until you tell it what files you want to process. So let's actually select a lakehouse. And then once we've selected a lakehouse that contains sensitive data, we can go in and select the files or folders that we want to process today. So, we might select, for example, this folder called patient data. And inside patient data, there could be, a myriad of additional files and folders that you're interested in processing. But you make your selection within the lakehouse there. Once that's completed, you'll want to then specify your output location. So, I've created an additional lakehouse called internal LLM training data. This lakehouse is going to only contain sanitized versions of these files. These are going to be files that have either been tokenized or they're going to be, the PII will be replaced with these synthetic values. And let me actually touch on that just for a moment. Let's say you have a text file. Okay, so the file has text. Maybe it's a medical note, something that maybe a doctor wrote, a brief note about an encounter that they had with a patient. In a text file, we'll essentially take this text file, we'll scan it for PHI, and then we can replace all of the PHI found within the note with tokens or with synthetic replacement values. And we'll write back to the output lakehouse location this now sanitized text file. Now, with text files, that's a relatively straightforward process. But many of Textual's customers and many Fabric customers are obviously dealing with things beyond text files. They might be dealing with an image that someone took of a document, or a PDF, or maybe it's an MP3 file, an audio file of a phone call. These are more complex file formats that you can't easily read. We support these types of files as well. So for example, if your lakehouse is filled with PDFs, we can actually generate for you however many synthetic PDFs you need. We actually go into the PDF itself, identify what's sensitive, and then replace those sensitive pieces of text with synthetic values so that the output PDF you have, it will look and feel real. You won't be able to tell that this isn't actually the real PDF. Of course, maybe it wouldn't hold up to like a forensic audit, but someone viewing this output PDF later won't see any customer PHI, but what they will see is a very high quality, very real looking PDF, which you can use for training. And that's true for all of the file formats that we support. We support PDFs, images, many of the Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office file suite, like Excel files, Word documents, etc., audio files. We can work with video files as well, and we're constantly adding new file formats. Microsoft Outlook files. They're either called MSG or EML files. I can never remember which is which, but we support all of these different file formats. So we select our output location. Let's do that now. And once that's selected, we can actually begin scanning files. So you can see here on the left, these are all of the files that we've selected. This is just kind of like a preview of it. There's this text file and then also an Excel file. And then what we're going to do is we're going to actually run a job to scan the files for PII. So of the files scanned, we found several occurrences of first and last name. So there's kind of two steps to this process. First, we scan the files. Then once you've kind of reviewed the findings, you can kind of choose how you want to deal with different types of PII. So for example, in this file, we might say, hey, or in this setup, we might say, hey, you know what? Maybe this is like medical data or financial data, and customer or patient names are typically quite sensitive. So let's actually redact those names. We can go here. We're going to say, hey, you know what? Let's redact all types of PII. That's what this bulk edit configuration means. You can optionally set different types of PII to different values. You might say, oh, first names aren't sensitive, but last names are. And of course, names is just one example of the types of PII that we can find. Out of the box, Tonic Textual supports 40 different types of PII. We also have the ability for customers to train their own detection models for unique types of PII that are kind of like unique to the organization. Like maybe you're a health insurance company and you have a very specific type of healthcare ID that you use that you want to train one of our models to detect. You can do that as well. So we've kind of flagged that, okay, names are sensitive. Now we start the second part of the process. We actually run the job that takes the files that we've selected in the lakehouse and actually processes them, removes PII, replaces with synthetic or tokenized values, and puts them into the output lakehouse location. So at this point, my new lakehouse, my internal LLM training data lakehouse, has the same files as the original lakehouse. Those files are going to look and feel real. Structurally, they'll be the same. The file types will be the same. But all of the PII has now been replaced, and you now have data that's safe for training a machine learning model. Now, of course, you're going to want to kind of, you might have to do this multiple times. So for example, like let's say, if you select individual files within a lakehouse, you can just rerun that job whenever you like. And if the files have been updated, of course, those updates will reflect in the output location. But most customers, they don't select individual files. They might select entire buckets or folders, or they might have logic like, I want to select all PDFs under these subfolders, logic like this. In that situation, whenever you rerun the job, we will analyze what files have been added, removed, and changed in those folders prior to actually doing the processing. So essentially, as files are being added to your folders, they will automatically be kind of placed into the output location as well. You don't have to go in and constantly update things. And then down the road, if you need to change your source or destination configuration, you can, of course, do that. So now at this point, you have your new lakehouse. You have a bucket or a folder in there that contains de-identified, realistic-looking files, and you can use that for whatever your use case is. For many of our customers, like I said, it is for fine-tuning and training models, but it can be for other use cases as well. And that's the demo. And if there's questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. So, we're in private preview. Your Fabric administrator will need to reach out to gain access at the moment. So who should participate in this preview? Well, obviously, if you're an existing Fabric customer and you're dealing with sensitive unstructured data in Fabric and you're not necessarily sure how you can work with it, Tonic Textual is a great offering. Give it 5 clicks in the Fabric UI and you have de-identified safe data that you can use. We hear from organizations all the time. It's like they have so much value locked in their unstructured data, but the data is essentially radioactive until you can kind of deal with this privacy issue, right? Like you can't run the risk of putting customer PII into weights of models that you train. So how do you actually deal with this? So if you're in Fabric today, you're dealing with unstructured data and you have this problem of the data contains very sensitive information, compliance or regulations, they don't allow us to use it. Tonic Textual is a great solution that you can deploy with very little fuss and start getting value out of that unstructured data today. So why join it? Well, there's obviously, you have a use case, you need to solve the use case, but there's some other benefits of kind of joining early, right? The product is in private, the integration's in private preview right now. So we're rolling it out, kind of as we speak. And typically, with products that are early in their journey, there's always this ability for your first set of customers to kind of greatly influence the roadmap and the use cases and experience of the product. So if this is interesting to you and you feel like, hey, this product, there could be some value here, but I'm not exactly sure. Well, if you join the private preview today, you're going to get direct access to myself and the other engineers at Tonic that are working on the Fabric integration. And you'll essentially help us kind of define that roadmap and make sure that the product meets your use cases. You can kind of think of it as your own kind of like, free development team for the next little while until we go to general availability. So, if that's interesting to you, please reach out. Whit, I'll hand it back to you now.
All right. So we'll be following up with an email that has this link where you can sign up to enroll in the preview. After you'll just fill out a quick form, and then someone from the Tonic team will be in touch to discuss your goals and then also to provision access to Tonic on Microsoft Fabric. So stay tuned for that email. We've had one question come in. I think that this would probably be best for Adam. Does Tonic offer a specific adapter, for lack of a better term, specifically for GDPR?
Sure. So, in the webinar today, I mostly talked about PII and PHI. These are definitely more like US-centric terms that I use. That's me showing my own bias, being based in the US. The way that Tonic Textual works, it just finds PII, sensitive information related to users. There isn't really like a specific adapter that says, oh, this is US PII. This is PII that would pertain to an American. Our Tonic Textual is used by customers both in the United States and Europe. And the way that we find and identify and then replace entities is very kind of like generic. And it's not actually really built with a specific industry or country in mind. So I'm very well versed in U.S. laws related to healthcare, like HIPAA, but I'm also like reasonably aware and well versed in the requirements of GDPR and the types of data that GDPR defines as being related to users and that typically would need to be anonymized or pseudo-anonymized. Tonic Textual identifies that information as well. So if your use case is more of a GDPR focus, there's no reason that you cannot use the product. It'll work equally well. The biggest question and always the biggest concern is, well, does Tonic Textual support your language, right? Tonic Textual was built initially for the English language, but since its creation, we've added support for many different languages. Most major European languages are supported as well. And I know Dionysios, I know you asked earlier about do we support Greek? So we do support Greek. So if your concerns are related to the Greek language and as it relates to GDPR data, I think we can help you and really any other customers in a similar situation.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. And if there are any other questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A.
One question I get sometimes is related to scale. Microsoft Fabric, of course, it supports small scale data, but I think it really shines when we're talking about massive amounts of data. So Tonic Textual also can kind of operate at that same scale. The Tonic Textual service is kind of scaled horizontally and can support like the concurrent processing of a very large number of files. I don't want to claim that we can operate at Microsoft Fabric scale. I know that's a pretty impressive feat. But we work with customers every day that are dealing with billions and trillions of words. We typically talk about scale in terms of how many words we're processing. And we typically can scale services to kind of meet any throughput requirements as it relates to like the number of documents and the number of words that need to be processed. So that's always a question that comes up on our end that I wanted to get in front of.
Adam, what type of what's a common use case that you see with Tonic? Because the reason I'm asking this is because like inside of Fabric, like we have a lot of customers that typically bring in traditional sort of structured data, and I'm assuming Tonic can get into those structured data and pull that information. But I think the hard part is really those Office documents, right? Like the PDFs, the Word documents, those things that a lot of our customers already have, and they want to actually consume it inside of Fabric so they can use it with AI, with data agents, with Copilot. Do you see that as a common use case with your customers, or is there other popular use case where Tonic is really powerful?
So our customers come in two groups essentially. The first group is all they want is to use our API, send it raw blobs of text, and get back the synthetic versions of the text. Those use cases are primarily for generating training data sets. So I'm a data scientist. I have a bunch of medical notes that I'm pulling out of an EMR system. I send the notes through Textual to kind of generate sanitized versions of these notes. And then I can go train my new healthcare diagnosis summarization model, something like this. And then we have this other group of customers that are typically dealing with files. The two, by far and away, the two most file formats that we support are PDF and Word documents. So DocX and PDF, those are by far the two most popular formats. These customers, the use cases are twofold. There's still this training and AI use case where like, oh, I want to feed all of this data down in these documents into a RAG application, but I kind of got to remove PII first. And then the other use case is, hey, I have some type of ETL pipeline that I'm developing. I need to go test it. This ETL pipeline essentially takes, PDFs, Word documents, other files. It extracts information. It converts it into structured data tables. It does this and that, different types of analysis. Well, I need to test my data pipeline. Well, I can't test it with real customer data. That's sitting in production. I'm a developer. I don't have access to production. So I need the next best thing. And the next best thing is these identical same documents with the PII removed and replaced with realistic values. So then this developer can go and essentially they have a mirror of their production lakehouse in a lower environment, and it contains the same files, but they're de-identified. And this developer can now go test and develop their application with data that looks and feels just like production data.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting use case because you made a statement during the presentation. I actually put it on LinkedIn. When you talked about like data being radioactive, right? Until you actually deal with the sensitive information inside of it. And I think that's really, really important because it's so easy for, companies or even developers to say, like, I need to build this thing really quickly, give me the data. But in fact, there is sensitive information. You should actually be really, really careful with it. And the question that came up with GDPR, like, there's monetary risk to this. Like, you got to really do a good job. And I think having sort of Tonic sitting at the forefront or at the beginning of any of these pipelines make a ton of sense. And that's the way I've been talking to our customers as well, is that every time that anything that you're doing with your data, whether it's analytics, whether it's AI, co-pilots, agents, whatever that is, ultimately that really opens up the data to all of your users who may or may not have access to this sensitive information. Like, you really should have something like Tonic Textual in the beginning of any of those pipelines to make sure data is anonymized properly. And I love the synthetic ability to generate data that is very, very similar, but just not the same, right? Like, not the actual data. And that's super powerful because as you start looking into, LLM training or other machine learning training, like, you don't want to just simply redact information, but you also don't want to put the real information in there. So I think that's really powerful way to really anonymize the data before it flows in. And that's sort of the conversation we're having with our customers. You really need to have textual in the beginning of every one of your pipelines because you don't want to deal with the data. Once it gets further down the pipeline, if you let the sensitive information stay, it is so, so hard to get it out and make sure you protect it. And you got to build all these permission policies all over the place, and it becomes really, really hard.
That's right. The way that we design this integration, it's very much, it mirrors a lakehouse that contains the real data. We essentially create a mirror of it. Yeah. It's like not only are we copying the files over, of course, we're also replicating the exact folder structure and structure of the source lakehouse, so that you essentially you end up with a mirror of the production lakehouse in this other environment now, where essentially the code that you would run against production, you can now run against this other lakehouse that contains the de-identified data. And it really does help with these, development and testing use cases, as well as, the model training. We just had another question come in. I'm gonna read it out loud, then we'll figure out who answers it. Suppose I have many documents relating to, say, a court case. So this is the legal document processing use case. This depersonalization is consistent throughout the interrelated document. Okay, so the customer is asking, let's say I get a bunch of documents that I want to process through Tonic Textual. How do I ensure that, let's say, the same person is referenced in multiple legal documents? How do we ensure that, the synthetic replacements that we provide, are they going to be the same across multiple documents? That's a really important requirement, especially when you're really for analytics or for model training. Like, the data, the links between the data and like the relationships between files need to persist in the de-identified output. Otherwise, the data is not very useful. So to answer that question, Tonic Textual has this notion of consistency. We essentially guarantee that a given input, so it could be a name, a birth date, an address, will always go to the same fake output value. So essentially, all of your synthetic documents remain consistent with themselves, just like they do in the source data set. So hopefully that answers your question.
Adam, there's another question. It's actually in the chat. It says, can you take a production database from Postgres and create an anonymized copy of it for dev?
Oh, yeah. That is actually, so we have, Tonic, the company, has multiple product offerings. We've today talked mostly about unstructured data via Tonic Textual. We have another offering called Tonic Structural. Tonic Structural, its only purpose in life is to take databases and create anonymized versions of them that are structurally, schematically identical to the source, but devoid of customer sensitive information. So I think the person asking this question, Ardo, if you go to tonic.ai, you'll find a lot of information related to Tonic Structural, and that's Tonic Structural's main use case. And it supports, of course, I'm not sure where your environments are deployed, but I'm assuming they're in Azure. Of course, we support Azure. We support, Azure PostgreSQL and various other Azure-specific flavors of different database systems. So now we're being asked, okay, well, what if the database itself has both structured data columns? So maybe there's an additional column in a table. It could be like a notes field, or maybe it's semi-structured data like JSON or XML. So if the data is semi-structured, you can handle it via Tonic Structural. If the data in the column is entirely unstructured, then you would use a combination of both products. Unfortunately, Tonic Textual's capabilities around entity detection and support for unstructured data don't exist in Tonic Structural. We have many customers that use both products together. There's a lot of ways you can do it. Happy to discuss more.
I'd love to hear if this is resonating, if people like see this problem today in their day-to-day job. I'm assuming you probably have some interest since you're here today, but would love to hear if thumbs up if this is something that is resonating with you and you want to be able to solve.
Whit, how do people reach out to both teams after this webinar if they want to kind of learn more or talk about their use cases?
Yeah, so please keep an eye on your inbox for a recap email to follow. We'll also include a contact form so that you can get in touch with us specific to the Fabric textual integration. So again, we'll be reaching out shortly. And if you'd like to talk more, we'd love to talk with you. So you'll be able to schedule a conversation directly from that email.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to chatting with folks. And special thanks to the Microsoft team here today.
Of course,
It's great working with you guys on this. Looking forward to bringing it to general availability.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Excellent. All right. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Bye, y'all.